Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another Tooele Happy Hour podcast starring Jared Anderson and David Weiss. Today, there are no guests. We're just having some alone time today because Jared and I miss each other. But there's lots of news to talk about. Jared, guess what we got today?
We got some homebrew here from a buddy of yours.
That's right. Check these bottles out.
He's got it good and filtered too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'd say so. So he's going for a Blue Moon type beer, he says.
Yeah, like
He wants an honest assessment, though.
a Belgian wheat. No, it's good. It's good. I'd like to know how he brewed it. Did he brew it in an open vat or spend any time in an open vat just to, because that's kind of what the Belgium thing is it mixes with the natural bacteria and makes it creamier. And then
Okay.
again, they probably don't do that anymore, but I like it. It tastes good.
There's a good amount of carbonation in here. He was worried that there wasn't enough carbonation. I think the carbonation's there. The flavor is kind of, I don't know. Maybe he could use a little bit more orange in there or something. But all in all, I mean, it's kind of refreshing for a hot day like this.
I like it. Well, I mean, he could also add in a hop to get that citrus smell, kind of that citrus punch
Yeah,
that you get out of it.
he needs a little bit more citrus punch, but other than that, I think you nailed it. I would order it a second round if it was offered to me at a restaurant.
Yeah, no, this is a good beer.
Yeah. So there you go, buddy. That's our honest
Yeah.
assessment on your beer. I think a little more citrus on that, and you can top it off with an orange peel, and you're good to go, my friend.
Yeah.
Thank you for the opportunity to assess your skills.
Thank you for the free beer.
And if anyone else out there wants a good assessment on their beer, I'll give it to you.
We offer ourselves up as tribute. Yeah. Anyways, you get the sharing done on that side, and while we kick this off, Dave.
Yeah,
All right.
you got it, boss.
So we don't have any guests this week, which we should. We need to get on top of it because, of course, the elections are ramping up, which also means that our local county elections are kicking off. So we need to get on that. So those of you running for office, expect to receive a email, phone call, text message, carrier pigeon, whatever from me or Dave. We need to get you on, get you through, get the people familiar with, all the candidates. But yeah, I guess we'll just kick it off and just dive right into the news. Dave wanted to, he brought up this, what's it called? Threads.
Yeah, Threads.
It sounds like a hip, inner city high-end clothing store, doesn't it?
Yeah. Sounds a little hippie, but
Yeah, it sounds, but
it's not.
Yeah,
That's not what it is, Jared. This is Facebook's Twitter alternative, and it's already getting censored left and right. So this week, Meta-owned Instagram launched Threads, a Twitter competitor, aiming to diversify its services. In a surprise to no one, Threads immediately started censoring and putting warning labels on the accounts of conservative users. The launch of Threads raises important questions about the Meta's control over information, evident through early censorship of conservative users, and also about the role of alternative platforms in countering dominance of big tech oligarchies. And that makes sense. I mean, if we're going to go to an alternative site to do Twitter type stuff, why would we continue using the same company time and time again if we know they're just censoring us and being used as a government tool to kind of just wedge themselves into our lives and snoop around?
Yeah, the feedback I've heard on it is one, when you log into Threads, it's like being thrown into a mosh pit. You kind of kick off following everybody. And that makes it so in order to unfollow people, you have to kick off blocking them. So it's like they have you initially follow all the celebrities. And I don't know, just everyone said it's felt chaotic. I haven't gone looking into it or anything else. I barely open my Twitter as it is, let alone have time or energy to kick off with something new. But, and yeah, I mean, Zuckerberg censoring conservative or just any voice that doesn't comport with what he thinks they should be saying. I'm shocked and amazed that that happened. And, it's crazy. I know.
Yeah, so it's just an extension of Facebook or Instagram or whatever Zuckerberg does. I mean, he's very left orientated. He wants this to be a friendly atmosphere, which means he's going to kick off conservatives and right wing votes.
I don't know if it's left oriented. I think it's status quo oriented. And anybody who has a voice outside of that has to go. And that's kind of what I'm starting to feel like they're more than happy to have Ben Shapiro hang out on there. Because he never really says anything out of the pale. It's when someone says something a little out of the pale, they tend to kick him off. And it's just a status quo thing. I mean, hard to believe, it's been assumed forever that the CIA and the NSA was a big part of Facebook's launch and startup. So, but anyways, we'll go ahead and we'll just, you sent a couple of screenshots. I say we just share them away.
So this is what happens to you when you want to follow someone, maybe kind of like us. Let's show that.
So,
are you sure you want to follow this guy? There's his mugshot up there. This account has repeatedly posted false information that was reviewed by independent fact checkers or went against our community guidelines.
And they've checked the fact checkers. They are not quite as independent as they portray.
Yeah, I mean, what can you expect?
Yeah. Your post on Threads was removed. Another one. Here's this. Now you shared this the other day. Let me make sure it's centered in there. Yeah, that's pretty good. Okay, you shared this. Wisconsin homeowner Patrick Tomlinson was detained and later released after someone called 911, falsely reporting that he had killed his wife, all to bring a massive police response, the SWAT team. The Milwaukee couple says they've been swatted 42 times. They're also receiving death threats over email and voicemail.
Now, the reason why I wanted to highlight this article is if you're swatted 42 times and the same police station has to report to that SWAT call, do you think that they'd have the IQ to realize that this is a prank after maybe 23 times? Or 24.
They should, but man, do we want status quo of law enforcement that they don't respond to a call like that? I mean, I would hope that, of course, they're in Milwaukee. That's a fairly large city, So maybe the police can't boil it down to one. I'm wondering, do they have a link in here as to why he's being swatted?
Yeah. So he said that there was a comedian on Saturday Night Live, and he said that the comedian wasn't very funny on Twitter. So this organization, this like cyber bully organization, these like hackers, these terrorists, digital terrorists, form a group, and they just target them. They target them, and they hunt them down and send nasty phone calls, and they go to places that they've been as they post them on Facebook, and then they take pictures of themselves in the same pose that they were and put them up. And and they're stalking these people. And part of that process is the swatting of these individuals at the same house 42 times. And I guess one of the sheriffs repeatedly shows up on the SWAT calls and continuously tries to kick in the door. And, I don't know, Milwaukee, they might kind of breed them a little slow up there. But I would say after like the 23rd call to that house, I would get it. I would get that this is a prank, and I would stop drawing guns on the people probably.
I would hope so. I would hope that, you do want the police to respond. I would hope that the police could come up with some kind of common sense tactic. The ugly thing that would happen is if it does go to the worse,
like the 43rd time is actually real,
or the 43rd time one of the officers kills him. Mm-hmm. All right, Ben and Jerry's takes a shot at America on July 4th. Didn't Ben and Jerry's say that we should return stolen indigenous land? And now is there a boycott on Ben and Jerry's now?
Well, that's what they're trying to do. So, as you can see on the board here, Ben and Jerry's they came out with their own, here's why we need to start with Mount Rushmore, pull it down, and let's ban this in America, and we're the land of the free, home of the slave kind of stuff. And they're left. They lean left. They always have leaned left.
Jesus, they left behind a long time ago.
Their ice cream is good. And you know who likes ice cream? Kids. Kids don't care.
Well, all right, let's say it like this. Ben and Jerry's have gone this radical way for a long time. This is not their first Facebook controversy. I would dare say that people who disagree with them already do not purchase Ben and Jerry's. And that's that.
Yeah, and the audience that Ben and Jerry's targets is a little different than what Budweiser was. So these right-wing media organizations and podcasters want to replicate what happened with Budweiser with Ben and Jerry's, and there's a push for that. And I just don't see it being successful.
I don't think it'll happen. I mean, Target is like a blue collar shopping center, upper blue collar shopping center. And so Target was available for that. Budweiser obviously was available for that. Ben and Jerry's, I don't know whether they'll feel much effect at all.
Yeah, I doubt it.
And then you put up videos out of Chicago.
Yeah.
I watched this the other night. The standoff with the police is just wild.
This is what's going on in our inner cities.
So to explain it to people, you've got police on one side and a whole bunch of hoodlums on the other with sticks. And then it shows these kids running. Honestly, if you was to overlay this video with any kind of technical influenza, you'd think it was dead on. Just kids riding around, hanging out a sunroof. One has an AR, the other one's got a pistol. Another one, the police are chasing an SUV, and some kids just riding around, hanging out of the window. Now, I guess there's a big thing, and this isn't the first time that this has come along throughout our history, but there's a big thing. They steal a car just to joyride it and crash it. And they've taken out, innocent parties. A couple of them have killed themselves. Yeah.
I think what the video is trying to highlight is the fact that our inner city cultures are becoming a lot less civilized as we continue down the timeline. And it doesn't seem to get any better, just worse as we march through that graffiti of history.
Well, I think something to check out. Martyr Made just did a podcast, just released it. It's called Whose America Is It Anyway? And it's like part 4 or 5, whatever. But it talks about the riots that gripped the inner cities in the 60s. And it's when they had the exact same thing. ultra progressive prosecutors, just letting people back out. I mean, they kind of took over the school district in New York City there for a while, and it's unheard of. But teachers got assaulted, lit on fire, beat up by students, sexually assaulted, all that stuff. And you listen to it, and it sounds a lot like right now. It sounds the same.
No, I don't know if there's any cure for that though.
Well, the cure is one, you've got to have law and order. You've got to prosecute people who break the law. That's step one. Step two, you have to make these areas safe for people to do business in. Crime drives poverty, and you have to make it safe for someone who wants to open a coffee shop or a iPhone store or anything else to do that, and that employs the neighborhood, that uplifts the whole neighborhood. And so you have to, and look, I'm going to say it right now. If you're in an inner city community that's collapsing under the weight of this stuff, it's up to you. You've got to hold your own people accountable. You have to, drag them out into the street if they're doing wrong and turn them over to the police. You can't turn a blind eye to it. You let crime run rampant, the businesses leave, and then you're in your own little mini depression.
Yeah, and this is America. That's not supposed to happen. It's there's supposed to be rule and law. There's a code of civilization that we uphold more than any other country. But these I don't know. It seems like it's a popular culture to go against that grain in your youth now, and it costs a lot of taxpayer money to enforce those laws. And once the person is apprehended, it costs more money to put them in jail and house them and detain them and provide proper detention. So, without money, how do you provide that legal restriction to the citizen if you don't do it through the community in some voluntary way? I don't know.
How about France being on fire right now?
France being on fire.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What's going on in France?
So France has some pretty heavy rioting going on right now. And it sounds like an Algerian kid was, ran from the police or was attempting to run from the police, and the police shot him and killed him. And, so France has erupted, and essentially the riots are Algerian about, just pretty much, it's pretty much an ethno rioting right now is pretty much what it is.
Geez, that's a surprise.
Oh, but France has been no one's really talking about it, but France has been in a riotous state for, what are we going on now? Man, I think we're going on, something crazy, like 28 months.
Well, again, like Algeria and all these countries over in Africa where all these migrants are coming from are war-torn nations. And the people that have lived there have experienced horrific events, traumatizing events that have fried their neuro capacity to be normal. And once you endure that kind of trauma in life, you're damaged. You need help. You need therapy. You need a safe place to live. You need to be nurtured. And there's no one who can afford to do that for them.
Oh, it's different. I looked into the history. So I saw this French riots they picked up, I think it was on the 1st. And so France declared Algeria one of its
colonies,
mandatory, like they just declared Algeria part of France and a specialty part of France. And so when Algeria goes in the drink, France goes down and pulls people out. Now, here's the issue when you go, this is going to come out wrong, but bear with me.
Wrong or harsh? There's a difference.
Harsh. There's the Imam of Peace said this the other day. It's an interesting.
I didn't know there was such a thing as the Imam of Peace.
Yeah, you can watch his videos.
Okay.
Anyhow, he's an anti-terrorist imam. He's a Shia Muslim. Humana, on down the line. Anyways, he says you can't go to one of these third world countries that's falling apart and say, we're going to take some of your population, because what you're going to get are the unsuccessful. The successful people, the people who are thriving there, are going to stay there where they're thriving. So you end up with this rowdy bunch. So what the 17-year-old kid had done, he'd been arrested a few times for carjacking and joyriding. The police go to pull him over. He doesn't have a valid driver's license, so he tries to run. When he tries to run, apparently he does the old thing where the car becomes a weapon, so the police officer shoots him and kills him, and then the Algerians all, get into a ruckus over it, and there you go. France. But France has been on fire for, you started out with the yellow vest protesters in 2019?
Yeah, and then they were quickly overtaken by communists, and they'd put on yellow vests.
They got added in, and then late last year, or was it early last year? You had the protests start because Macron had raised the retirement age, I think 2 years. So everyone went into protest over that. It's stuff's getting insane. I don't know. I could go on and talk about how, to me, it feels like we're seeing the end of our global economic system as it stands. I think maybe they have printed too much.
Yeah, and I learned an interesting thing last time I was over there in Europe is they have these huge stone buildings that are like, 5 or 6 floors, and the streets are really wide in the cities, in these areas, and that's where the people would congregate, and the kings ordered that they're made with wide streets and high stone buildings so that they can put cannons on them and then blast the protesters if they get too rowdy. Now, me personally, I think if you're holding a Molotov cocktail and you're damaging goods, there should be a sniper on the roof. You should be sniped. I think it is a violation of the non-aggression principle, the Molotov cocktail things. Maybe France does have a reason to protest, but if it were me in charge and I was having to hold down the fort for the lizard people, I would probably install snipers on the roof and make sure that the non-aggression principle is enforced.
That's a tough one.
Otherwise,
you have to get to a special place before you can have your soldiers fire indiscriminately into crowds.
I don't think it's indiscriminate. A sniper has to actually aim through a scope.
Sure. You have to take your country to a special place.
Well, is it really their country if they're Algerian?
No, I guess. I don't know.
I think that would make it easier for
Are
them.
there Algerian police officers?
There might be, but I shouldn't have them on duty that day.
Yeah. They come back on duty sometime. Anyways.
But that is how countries are run and administrated, and that's the norm of it. We're in a new period where we allow these protests and free speech and destruction of property. This is new.
This isn't the first time. Listening about the 60s, it's the same place. Man, we're rhyming.
Are we?
Yeah.
I don't know. This is the first time I think we've ever let in multicultural groups like this of warrior aged males and expect them to just be like, yeah, I'll get a job at McDonald's and make $5 an hour. It's just, I don't think it's going to happen.
Should we go on to the fun story?
I don't know how much there is to talk about this, but it is what it is. It's been out there for a while now, but it is a fun story.
This is this is comic relief, and I've got kind of got some thoughts on it. Let me get all this lined up because
So we all know what kind of character that Hunter Biden is. We all know what kind of a family that the Biden cartel raised. And, you know, I don't know if this is to be unexpected or not.
are you saying you're not shocked?
No, I'm not. I'm actually kind of surprised it took this long to.
I like how the story keeps changing. The story has just been on a constant changing. All right. So France is in protest. All right. Secret Service found cocaine at the White House. AP sources say.
What does AP mean?
Associated Press.
Ah, okay.
Associated Press is a group that was built up. It's kind of where reporters can congregate. And let's face it, there's not a lot of reporters left. There's a lot of talking heads like you and me, and not a lot of reporters that go out and really dig into stuff. The White House was briefly evacuated Sunday evening while President Joe Biden was at Camp David after the Secret Service discovered suspicious powder in a common area of the West Wing, and a preliminary test shows the substance was cocaine. 2 law enforcement officials said on Tuesday. So the Secret Service agents were doing routine rounds on Sunday when they found the white powder in an area accessible to tour groups, not in any particular West Wing office, the official said.
Do they go into detail of this
Okay.
area?
All right. So, okay. When it first came out, they said they found it at the White House. Then they said they found it in the Ready Room. And then they said they found it in this other place. I'm scrolling up to see when exactly this was last edited. July 4th. So it's been 3 days. So it has been found in 3 different places over the last 3 days. The AP slow to report, but the AP is the AP's friendly to the Biden White House. But yes, Hunter Biden was there visiting. Yes, there's videos of him walking around on that little platform, that little patio where they all hang out. And
They say they found white powder. It's like, did they find a baggie dropped on the
they
floor?
found a bag of cocaine.
They found a bag of cocaine dropped on the floor.
They didn't say where they found it at. They said the location. It has changed 3 times where they said they found, okay, last time I heard it's been changed 3 times, according to reporting. Anyways, I don't know. I just, Hunter visits, cocaine's found, everyone's shocked.
And the location changed 3 times.
Well, they said, first it just said White House, and then it said in the Ready Room, and then it said in the Oval Office, and it just kept going. And it sounds like they're trying to have honest reporting as close as they can without saying, yeah, Hunter brought in cocaine. But I wonder if Hunter didn't come to visit, so one of Joe Biden's aides says, now's my chance to do coke at work, and no one will know.
Well, I don't know. Maybe the place functions better if they are on coke, to be honest with you. I mean, poor Joe looks like he needs a nap all the time.
Yeah,
Maybe a hit of cocaine wouldn't do him bad.
I don't know. That's like kind of the big news right now.
So, okay, big deal. They found cocaine in the White House. Like, anything's going to come of that,
I'm
right?
sure this is the first presidency that's had cocaine in the White House.
Imagine if this was during the Trump administration. Oh, gosh. I'm sure the Associated Press would be like, we found it up someone's butt in a ceramic pellet wrap, or, they'd go into detail where it was.
It's
But you can't get anything out of them with this administration and process.
let's see what the New Yorker says. Most likely, it says it's most likely a holiday tourist. I didn't know you could take tours. It was found in a cubbyhole at a West Wing entry. It says right here. When was this one?
Okay, so we're giving location details.
This one was, at 5:09 p.m. So, does the West Wing or does the White House have tours now? I thought they'd shut those off during Obama. If anyone out there listening knows. Ooh, a stressed out staffer? Huh? Yeah. Ooh, there it is. The prodigal son. Or the 80-year-old commander in chief.
So this is turning into like one of those Clue games.
And then again, when they ask old Jean-Luc Pierre, or whatever her name is, about it, she refused to answer. But okay, I'll just say this. I don't think it was Joe Biden. I lean towards it being Hunter. I am kind of shocked that the son of the guy who authored, or supposedly authored, the 92 crime bill, which was really strict on drug use, ushered in mandatory minimums and all that stuff. I'm really shocked that his son's a part of it and just skates free. Doesn't matter. But who knows?
I'm not shocked. I mean, if it's your son, you're going to do everything you can to keep him out of trouble.
Yeah. So I don't know. That was the two stories I really had. France is on fire, and I honestly I don't care. I don't care if Hunter Biden's railing coke off of that big old desk in the Oval Office. I just don't care. I don't. Again, I've said it before, and I'll say it again. I do not think we're going to find salvation from anything in government. I just don't think so. I don't think the government's going to step in and correct our inflation woes or correct our degradation economically on the world stage or correct anything. They're not. Matter of fact, I can almost promise you that if the government puts a bill out, it has a better chance of having a general negative effect on all of us citizens, or it does nothing at all. And that's it. Our government is too far gone. It's, it has become a cancer.
Yeah, and I have a hard time even just verbally saying that it's our government.
Yeah. All right, good point. I apologize. I stand corrected.
We live here.
I do know one person who doesn't vote for anything that goes that way.
I mean,
I might start, though. I like that Brad Green guy.
do you think chickens ever say this is our farm? So
That's a good question. Chickens, the beef. Yeah, we're just chattel. But that's just where my head's at with that. I mean, my honest opinion is it's not going to change anything. It's not going to make it any better. It's not going to make it any worse.
and there's going to be no ramifications whatsoever
Nope.
for the Biden family.
No, you don't try your rulers. You just don't.
In fact, it wouldn't surprise me if they actually try to blame Trump for it.
What was that lady's name? Was it Anne Boleyn, who used to get like maids and staffers and village women and kill them and bathe in their blood?
It was some Russian baroness, yeah.
I don't think she was Russian. She was Polish.
Well, okay.
Prussian. But
If you ask Vladimir Putin, I think Poland is part of Russia.
not yet. Maybe in a couple of years. Actually, I think Poland will be in charge of Russia before too long. That's just my opinion. One place has a thriving economy and the other one, no chance. But if I remember correctly, after she got caught and tried, I think she got 11 months house arrest. And she killed like 70 people. It's insane. All to make her skin young and beautiful.
Yeah, well,
How many peasants does it take to take a bath?
nowadays they say that they actually collect plasma or something from young people and try to inject it into the wealthy to help them prevent aging. I've heard things like that.
I'm sure they do. And Maybe it works. I don't know. Do you have to match up blood types? Do you have to find a donor? I don't know. Whatever it is, but yeah, that's my stories. You got anything else you want to cover?
Yeah, there's one more thing that I thought. Well, actually, two things.
All right.
Our honorable judges came up with a verdict about whether or not colleges can decide who gets in or who does not get in based off of race.
If I remember, it was two specific colleges like South Carolina State and Harvard.
I believe the word for this is called affirmative action,
Yeah.
which is neither affirmative nor action anymore.
Yeah.
So as most people know, you get introduced to college based upon your application. I mean, you either get in or you don't. How do they decide who gets in, and how do they decide who
Who
does
do we
not?
want to read this off? We'll just go to CBS. They're the ones that.
Most of the time, colleges would filter their applications by their racial background, and they want a diverse group of people to attend. Now, I don't think that's legal anymore, and
Well,
I don't know what they're going to do about that, but there might be something of a loophole that they can manage to hoodwink that law through by listening to like essays from the applicant talk about their struggle in a diverse world or a particular geographical location or racial struggles of their existence, things like that. It's going to be more difficult for them, though.
okay. So they handed down a ruling. Brought to the end, the consideration of race is a factor in college admissions. Said Colorado could not compel graphic designer to express a message that defied her closely held beliefs. And here's the deal: colleges, public institutions, and as long as they receive government money, I don't think that they can do it. Now, most of the time, the victims of this affirmative action thing were Asians, for obvious reasons. I guess now I could, go off and show that World Mathematics Cup thing I laughed about all weekend. But, but anyways, no, it's, the Asians were graded harshly, actually knocked down. Like they had to, they have a point system and the Asians have to score like 400 points and, which is more than any other group. And so it was an Asian group that initiated this lawsuit, and it was initiated against Harvard. And then I think it sucked in South Carolina State or North Carolina State. I think it was one of the Carolina states. Oh, I'll scan this, see if it, and look, I've said it before. Affirmative action's awful. It does negative effects to the people it's supposed to help, because then they're viewed at, did you get here on your merits, or did you get here because we just need to push you across the line for whatever characteristic you inherently have that has nothing to do with your choices in life. Okay, sure. It's going to hone the rest of us to where we have to be. Now, obviously not me. One, I'm retarded and I'm old, but, it'll just hone the groups that it negatively affects into a sharper point. They'll just become that much better, which I think is good for society. I'm not arguing it's good for them, but, and of course we're reading off of CBS. So of course, CBS has to, it was a notable coda for a court that, over the course of its two most recent terms, has appended precedents on abortion and now affirmative action. I'm telling you, this person is clutching their pearls, sitting on a padded table, surrounded by fluffy bunnies. If a dude wrote this, that guy needs to go turn in his testicles like yesterday. While enduring scrutiny over its ethics standards following reports about Justices Clarence Thomas and Samuel Alito's ties to wealthy Republican donors. There's sand in my vagina.
Yeah, this is written to the point where it's almost like
It's a
just
parody.
whining.
It's a parody. This son of a bitch. He's lucky we're not reading it on a page, because I'll bet his tears would have freaking transferred over to print.
Oh, it would have smeared all the ink. We wouldn't be able to read it at all. You know, so you know, I think anyone who wants to discriminate, like any business or owner or whatnot wants to discriminate on the private side.
Any individual, yeah.
If they just want all black people to come to their shop or rent their apartments, they should be allowed to do so.
Yes,
If it's
100%.
if it's a private
100%.
institution.
As long as you're not receiving any government support, do it. But
Now, yeah, there's the caveat there. If we're all paying taxes to the coffers of this wonderful institution that we call a republic, then that agency that receives those coffers and is injected with those wonderful taxpayer dollars, you shouldn't be allowed to discriminate. It should be
100%.
illegal.
And it's through the government, balance, you have to be blind.
Now, for some reason, the left argument is that when you have people of diverse backgrounds and cultures come together in a group to accomplish a process, it's supposed to be some sort of like fairy dust magical
No.
twinkle toe experience
works.
that enhances the outcome.
I'm sure they're correct on that.
Kind of like when all those white people came together to write the Constitution.
I'm
Could you
sorry.
imagine if there was just one Mexican put in there, everything would have been okay.
Well, we had, I'm sure there was a Frenchman somewhere in there. But, I mean, it's just, God, what was that? Kathleen, the Democrat. Nice lady. If you support her, please go on, vote for her. But good God, she judged the merits of the Constitution by the color of its authors. And that is that is as short-sighted as anyone can ever be. It's just,
Yeah, it's actually something I never thought about. It's like, were they all white? There wasn't like one brown dude in there from Spain.
actually, there's been some studies that they believe Thomas Jefferson, who had taught a couple of his slaves, for lack of a better word, to read and write. And one of them was there and aided him in that stuff. Now, it's just reporting. I wasn't there. I don't know. But
Sounds good.
that he had one that, aided in a lot of his writings. But either way, I mean, it's, it's just insane that was her comment on that. It wasn't about, I don't know. It wasn't about any kind of gradient on, it was just, well, they were all white. That it just fell out of her head like that. Just gave me a pucker factor that I haven't been able to get over it. That haunts me, that she's that retarded.
Oh, you said the R word.
I've said it 3 times now. On the
So
show, I
naughty.
think. But, there was that. And then she's, when we're talking about the Second Amendment, for those of you who don't support guns, I don't know, run face first into a brick wall. I don't care. But I do. And here on this show, Dave does, and we all do. And that's a big thing. The right to self-defense. It's a natural right. It's a negative right.
Yeah, we should be able to own rocket launchers and put guns on drones, as far as I'm concerned.
I'm all about negative rights. Negative rights are rights that you attain for yourself just by being, the right to speech. No one needs to give me that right. I have that right. Someone has to restrict it if they want to take it away. The right to self-defense. No one needs to give me that right. That's a right I attain in myself. Someone has to restrict it if they want to take it away. The right to not have soldiers stay in my house. I mean, that, honestly, Third Amendment, kind of stupid. Fourth Amendment, Fifth Amendment, all of that. These are
okay.
just rights that a group has to abuse you to take away from you.
Let's go back to that Third Amendment right. So, okay, maybe not soldiers, but in New York, the mayor was asking, can we house immigrants in your house if you have an extra room? And he wasn't demanding it by gunpoint or whatnot, but the suggestion was there. It was blatantly out in a press statement. So
Was they trying to forcibly house immigrants in other people's property?
I think it was at the process step of suggestion at the moment, but I could easily see how this could somehow get tied into a maybe a tax break or a mandatory. Do you have an extra room available down the future? But
That's a big. Would it abuse the Third Amendment? No, Third Amendment's very clear in its writing. It says hold soldiers.
soldiers, right?
Which during COVID, it almost came to blows on that because when they did the rent moratorium, some of those were soldiers. And some of those soldiers were forced, some people, some tenants were allowed to stay without paying. Some of those were soldiers. And one of the arguments that was tossed about being thrown out by different groups of realtors and things like that is this breaching the Third Amendment? And that would have been an interesting argument.
That would have been, yes.
The Third Amendment, we know why it was written, because the British commonly, when they sent soldiers over, would house soldiers, generally officers, in your home. And the third preambled the fourth and the fifth because those soldiers would just genuinely have carte blanche to your private property, your papers and things.
Especially when they have guns and you do not. That makes a difference on how rights flow. Mm-hmm. But these are immigrants we're talking about.
I don't know. I'd like to see how that shakes out. Now, if New York offers a deal where the people volunteer into it, and that's a voluntary interaction, that doesn't breach the Constitution. The immigration thing is still kind of an up in the air thing. There's plus and minuses to it on both sides. And I know a lot of people like to have their pennies twisted one way or the other about it, but if you want it, you have to accept and recognize and still man the negatives that come with it. And if you don't want it, you have to do the same on that side. So, and most people are not either clear of thought or intellectually honest enough to still man the arguments on either side.
Well, either way, these immigrants need some place to stay, and they're looking for what I would call dignity, which leads me to our next story, the Dignity Act. So the Dignity Act was proposed by a congresswoman in Florida recently, alongside a Democrat. I don't know who they are. Representatives in the House of Representatives. And so it's a joint bill, Republican and Democrat, and
Maria Elvira Salazar.
Yeah, that's her.
Okay.
Republican from Florida. And
Veronica Escobar, Lori Chavez de Rimmer, and Mike Lawler. And Jennifer Gonzalez Colon.
Right. And that the mix of Democrats and Republicans.
This seems like a huge Republican. There's one Democrat and 5 Republicans. 1, 2, 3.
Now, what they're trying to accomplish is
4 Republicans.
Funding the border without dipping into taxpayer dollars, which would be quite the accomplishment. What they'll do is they will allow the people that are here not to live under amnesty, but what they call dignity. So they won't be able to get citizenship, but they'll be able to work. They'll be able to pay taxes. And they'll have to pay like $700 a year for their permission to be here without being harassed and deported. Now, basically what it is it's saying that, we made this wonderful country and you can come here and you can stay here for $700 a year. That's the way I look at it. and it can go up to $5,000. You're not allowed to pay more than $5,000, which I think is actually a really good deal for someone who is living in the shadows at the current moment. In fact, I think it is almost still a steal.
Is it going to be like a progressive system, like it's done with your taxes?
No, it's just
like
you
an
pay the
add-on.
fee. There's a $700 a year fee.
Just have it done with your taxes. Just an add-on with your taxes. That way, it's a progressive system that follows along with the amount of money they make.
Well, this is supposed to create billions of dollars that they can build what they call obstacles instead of walls, and fund more border guards and technology.
I'm with it. I don't want a wall. One, I think it's a waste of money, and two, one day we may have to go south. But I just like it, man, give them an opportunity to come here and let's make some, some revenue off of this. I mean, God knows those 88 million IRS agents, or 88,000. How many was it?
87,000.
87,000 IRS agents, I mean, the IRS has already admitted to, what was it, 75% of its audits are for people who make less than $50,000 a year. That ain't going to change. So they bring more on. What are they going to? They need something for those guys to do. Well, let's have them collect this crap off of people. And then if someone, make it so it's simple, they can sign up. We know who they are. They pay taxes, all that stuff, because they're coming here anyway. That's not going to stop. Set something up like this, get them over here, get them working. Yes, there's a negative effect that comes with immigration. I'm going to lay it out right now. It does put economic stressors on the working side of the economics house. It does. It drives pay down. You just can't argue it doesn't. It just has to. But also, to still man the other side, we ain't breeding enough. And we need more people, because we're about to hit all these retirement ages, and too many people aren't replacing themselves. Too many people are waiting too long to pop out kids. And we're gonna go pear-shaped on our retirement. And that's gonna mean heavier taxes. That's gonna mean more government interaction. So, you know what? Let's do it. Lean into it.
Well, if this Dignity Act is passed by the government and put into effect, it does raise some money, but from my perspective, I feel like we're giving too good of a deal to people on the outside of the borders. I think $700 a year is cheap, incredibly cheap, for the permissions to come in and enjoy this country that our ancestors have built and died for, and this is perhaps the premium real estate of the world. Maybe if the cartels are charging $50K a person to come into America and be smuggled into America, and we're charging $700 a year, I think we're undercutting ourselves and undervaluing what the American people have built, this wonderful republic. I think it's worth more than that. I think it's worth a lot more than that. And it's almost kind of insulting. It's like telling you to rent out your room for $50 a month when you could get $1,000 a month for it. But this is the idea that they came up with jointly, and it's getting a lot of press right now. And if it does alleviate some of the financial burdens of the border from the taxpayer, I guess it's better than nothing. But what say do we have anyway?
So it says here it's going to have a reform on the asylum. So we'll establish 5 humanitarian campuses. They call these HCs. The bill would create 5 humanitarian campuses managed by CBP along the southern border. Migrants would be held in these facilities. Asylum officers would conduct asylum interviews and make final determinations on these campuses. Migrants would have access to medical staff. Initial screening. First 15 days under the bill, migrants would receive a 72-hour rest period. After that, HC staff would provide an initial screening within 15 days. Staff will conduct criminal background checks, analyze biometric data, verify identification. The thing I like about this is if you make it so that the honest people can come in, it's going to dissuade people from going to the cartels to come in. Things like that. Let's make it so they can get a visa, hop on an airplane, fly over and say, hey, I want to stay here. I'm signing up. And then the cartel dries up.
Now, this is just for people who are already here. This doesn't
not
this
this
doesn't
stuff here.
equate to
Not this stuff here. This
no,
stuff
but
is for future.
that is what is funded by the $700 a year. That
Yeah,
the
this is what's
illegals pay.
right now you got referral to an immigration judge, in country processing in Latin America, which I love that. They can go there and start moving forward in Latin America, cut the cartels out. Sponsorship of unaccompanied minors. So it sounds like they're going to,
Again, this is just what they're using the money for.
they're going to be strict on the unaccompanied minors and the adults who drag them in. And then I like this 2-strike policy. Under this provision, anyone who crosses between ports of entry would be logged in, directed to apply for asylum at a port of entry. If they tried to cross between ports of entry again, they would be subject to expedited removal. So they'll track them. If someone does it twice, if they come and try and don't get it and try it again, they just don't even go underneath a conversation again. We just boot them out.
Which then they'll go in through the cartel.
And then we just, they no longer have the ability to jump onto this program. They're prohibited.
Yeah. I mean, there's still there's room to breathe on this. There's definitely going to be modifications before it goes all the way through the government process, but it is a interesting first start.
This is a rather well written bill or, plan. I like how it's written. They've covered a lot of stuff. It's not like, hey, we're going to, expropriate your land and then poof, unicorn glitter comes out the ass, which is common, what we get a lot of. But hey, just my opinion. Everyone else may have different opinions. I just think that, one, we're not going to stop immigration. And in my opinion, and a lot of people disagree with me, nor do we want to. I think over the next 20 years, we're going to boil to a head that we're going to regret not having more immigration if we shut it down, just because we aren't replacing ourselves. Mm-hmm. All those boomers are retiring. They're still retiring. And those boomers, us Gen Xers and the Gen Zers and the millennials and all that, they ain't making enough kids. So we're going to have this huge gap. And then the ones they do made, I'm not going to say they're lazy and don't want to work, but their interest lies in different places.
You mean they don't want to pick strawberries?
It's not just that, but I read a study a couple days ago that construction trades jobs, they can't find people, and the expectation right now is that trades jobs, like a construction site that had 100 people 10 years ago, today can only find 14 to fill those jobs, which is also going to slow down production and all that stuff. And it's not like the government is doing us any favors in building housing.
No, they're going to make obstacles and require documents.
And it's going to slow that down. It's going to slow that down even more. So, I don't know. I'm looking at it a different way. Just remember, people out there in, Tooele land or whatever. One, read Jonathan Haidt so you know what I'm talking about. But try to rein in your elephant and let your rider think things through. Just your initial reaction is not always the best one on these bigger ethical questions. But That's my thoughts. What are your thoughts, Dave? Finish this out.
Never make a promise when you're happy. And something when you're angry.
That is post-nut clarity right there.
You know, life. You know, think things through. Yeah, it's a good idea. I think this bill, it's got a lot of good things in it, and I think it's got a long ways to go. But it's saying that both sides are willing to come together on the table to discuss the options and propose an idea, and that is always a good first thing, because immigrants are going to come, whether you want them to or not, whether you try to stop them or not, they're going to come. It's whether they come through the cartels or through some method that benefits us, the taxpayers.
Yep. Let's get some revenue out of it. All right, and that's it. It's an hour and 49 seconds. You know, we'll make it even 50 and just close up. But everyone, have a good time. So yeah, again, if you're running for political office here in Tooele County, get ready to start building our emails.